good evening to all our friends in North America and good morning to our friends in the Philippines. And sinadya ko pong dalawa ang greeting natin ngayong episode 7 of Kwentong GK because we actually, our guest for tonight is actually coming all the way from the Philippines. My name is Donna Reyes and I am your host for this weekly webby show. May term pala na webby show. I just saw that. On this weekly webby show of Kwentong GK, where we talk to advocates and supporters and people who love the poor, especially those in the Philippines, on a weekly basis. Ayan, kami po yung linggo-linggo ninyong nakakasama. So tonight, I am very excited to have with me, to chat with, right? Makikipagkwentuhan po tayo ngayong gabi with the key accounts manager of Gawad Kalinga. I had to get used to that because it was called partner services before. So I found out that now they more appropriately, I guess, call that group as the key accounts. And our guest this evening who will be joining me is no other than the key accounts manager of Gawad Kalinga in the Philippines, Miss Marlyn Importante, or to our GK family is Bing, right? Bing?
Yes po. Good evening, everyone. Good morning here in the Philippines. It's around 8 a.m. Magandang umaga po ulit.
Magandang umaga sa iyo dyan, Bing, and thank you so much for waking up so early. I understand, tumakbo ka pa. Nakatakbo ka ba this morning?
I have to, because we have a virtual run, so I have to race few kilometers to raise tablets for our athletes. So, yun po.
That is so awesome. What can you not do, Bing? Nakakwentuhan ko na ng konti si Bing kanina just to prepare for this interview. And I'm so excited for everyone to hear your story, Bing. And well, let's first start with, because na-mention ko nga, na yun, ang alam namin, na pagkakakilala namin sa role mo ngayon was partner services before, because I have been part of Gawad Kalinga here in the US, specifically in Chicago, way back in 2003. At ang alam ko, it's called partner services. And you said it's actually more appropriately called key accounts services, right? And you are in charge of key accounts in the US and Europe. So, pakipaliwanag lang sa atin. Ano ba yun? Bakit nga na siya ngayon key accounts and not anymore partner services?
Basically, it's still the same jobs, same lang yung task na ginagawa, but we change it to key accounts since we are handling accounts. So, like for example, GK USA partnership group, all the clients there, partners are one account. So, in the Philippines, we have a local accounts as well. So, ganun na po yung tawag namin. Pero yung work, yung ginagawa nyo before, are same pa rin. More on the partner care pa din.
Alright. So, ako, nag-agree ako na mas tama nga, mas angkop na gamitin yung key account services kasi mas descriptive siya, right, of what you do. But for those of us who are not very familiar, right, kung ano exactly yung ginagawa ng key accounts services, can you describe to us what it is and para doon sa mga hindi nakakaalam ng mga GK advocates natin na nanonood ngayon?
Okay po. It will start on looking for partners or clients, what we call. And then for the key accounts, as key account for GK USA, it starts with handling with a group, with the Tita Cell, with Tita Mer. So kami po yung nag-aayos ng mga projects. We're looking kung ano yung potential project in one community. And then if we have that, the USA group naman, they're looking for a potential partner to match it. So it will start on the inception of an idea of a project on how we can help. It could be a village, could be a feeding program, sports program, o kung ano man yung pwede at applicable doon sa isang community at saka isang need ng ating mga communities. So by then, in the middle, kami din yung sa key accounts group ang nagmamanage like the memorandum of agreement, checking on the financial side, so we compute the saan mapupunta or how we allocate the budget into a project. And then lastly, really monitoring on the progress and the completion report of project na na-download po sa site.
Bing, it's very interesting how you said that your work starts with an inception of a project. Like I said, I started by being involved with Gawad Kalinga back in 2003, and at that time, Gawad Kalinga was actually being introduced, or it was just introduced in the U.S. And nung time namin na yun, yung mga partners natin or yung mga GK builders would specify kung saan nila gustong magpatayo ng village or yung kung ano yung project na gusto nilang i-support, no? So yung parang nanggagaling yung not naman the initiative pero yung choice, right? Kung anong project or kung saang village magpapatayo from the partners. But now you're saying that actually nag-uumpisa yung work ninyo from the inception of a project, and then you find a partner that would support it. So can you just walk us through that? How is that, bakit naging, ano yung may shift ba na nangyari from before, or it has always been like that, but that, ano yung mga pagbabago na yan?
The changes, I think, is more on really if you involve our beneficiary in the planning part, the people on ground, the project, mostly highly likely that mas okay. Since sila po yung kasama natin. So it's like the whole ecosystem of our community. Nandun yung beneficiary, kapitbahayan natin. Andun din tayo and the head office that will guide them, and then the partner. So if it's the whole, everyone is working into one project, mas maganda yung kalalabasan compared if we readily prepare a project na think na ito yung appropriate sa kanila, pero hindi magmamatch. Kasi tendency is, may wrong mismatch. Could be like, for example, we're telling na, okay, ang kailangan natin dito na project is a livelihood in making rugs o yung paggawa ng mga something or clothes.
Pananahe.
So, pananahe. Pero pagdating dun sa community, ready now, we have the sewing machine and everything, electric yung nabili natin, pero pagdating doon, yung electricity pala, hindi capacity to use that machine. At the same time, our nanays or our KBs, walang mananahe, but all of them are farmers. Farmers na magaling in doing something na meron na silang skills. So magkakaroon ng mismatch. But if we plan with them and sit down and involve them in the process, mas maganda kasi sila yung magsasabi ng idea na I think the best, if we are given a chance to have a project, could be to increase our capacity in building, making mushrooms or expanded into planting petri or cabbage. So mas maganda yung galing sa kanila kasi mas nakikita nila na magpo-progress yung project. So it's a two-way thing.
Yeah, I think that's a really important approach, right? And I think it's a very powerful, crucial approach because mahirap kasi maging prescriptive tayo, 'di ba? Na ina-assume natin na ito yung pangangailangan, ito yung urgent need, right? And not really knowing, from the beneficiaries themselves or from the people who would supposedly benefit from the project, kung ano talaga yung kailangan nila, di ba? So we cannot, we cannot prescribe without really understanding what the community needs, di ba? So ako personally, I'm very excited about that. I wasn't sure if that was really a change, maybe in the past, because, we were introducing Gawad Kalinga pa lang, in the US. And, the work has just really, kumbaga siguro nasa early stage pa lang din. So, marami naman talagang posibleng, di ba? Maraming posibleng pagtayuan ng village, maraming projects ang pwedeng i-launch, di ba? But, as years go by, magpa-prioritize ka na, right? Which one is not naman more important, but na pwedeng unahin, kumbaga. Diba? So that's good. So I understand that you are also, aside from being the key accounts manager for the US and Europe, you are also the head of CPAG, right? So ano naman yung ikwento mo naman sa atin kung ano naman ang trabaho mo diyan sa CPAG?
Okay. As a CPAG, Gawad Kalinga CPAG program is a youth leadership program. but we use sports as a medium in guiding the kids. Because in sports, we believe that we can instill discipline, their perseverance, their dedication, and they will become much better in terms and much better youth eventually because of all the practices that we have on the pitch and outside the pitch. So CPAG, we use sports as a medium, as I mentioned earlier. Right now, we are focusing on the football and futsal. Not because that's our favorite sports, but because we have more champions into it. To make the program more successful, in our experience, is really to have someone to look an expert on that matter. For example, in football, most of our early volunteer 14 years ago are all football coaches. So kaya siya football yung naging focus. And then after 14 years, nagkaroon na rin tayo ng basketball, nagkaroon na din tayo ng running. So meron na rin tayo iba't ibang sports like sepak takraw in Maguindanao. So it evolves. So sipag now, it's maybe the best term to describe it is from the word na masipag. So we get it from there. If you are really masipag in something that you do as bata ka pa, and then hanggang ma-adapt mo yon, and it will become a gateway for other opportunities from you. So in sipag, after 14 years, we're able to open some doors in education, in scholarships. So proud to say that we have around more than 30 scholars. We have meron na rin nag-graduate from college. And then, nagkaroon na rin tayo ng opportunity for other youth to gain other skills for their livelihood.
So yung football at saka yung futsal, magkaiba yon, di ba?
Yes.
So for those of us na sobrang ignorante kagaya ko sa sports, ano ang difference ng football sa futsal?
Okay, to make it basic, football is played outside on the field with 11 players. Ito po yung nakikita natin sa TV lagi na marami po siya. So 11 aside and then outside on the pitch. Futsal, usually played by indoor. Like kung meron kang basketball court sa isang community, pwede na po yun. It's the same size. And then, besides of being indoor and played on the cement or asphalt, ito din po ay played by lesser players, like 5 aside. So, 5 players. Pwede din po siyang 3 or 3 by 3 players. Depende kung gaano kalaki yung mga spaces. So, most of the mga magagaling na football players like from Brazil, sila po ay nag-start in playing futsal kasi maliit yung mga space nila. So here in the Philippines, before it's called street football, pero the right term is futsal. So yun po yung una nating inaano sa mga bata, futsal. Yung same lang almost yung rules naman.
So with the pandemic, Bing, how are you able to to implement your programs kasi syempre contact sport yan, di ba? So paano niyo yan na nagagawa ngayon? I suppose walang mga games or whatever. How do you keep the youth active now?
Yes, with the presence of the pandemic, sadly for the 7 months, the kids has been contained in their places. They cannot go for their training na we have arranged for them 4 times or 5 times a week. So what we did when the lockdown happened, the first thing that we do na makapag-train pa rin yung mga bata is they have Zoom or in a messenger. So nagkaroon po sila ng online training. So it's like online session they can do at their home. So if some of the kids really can't afford to have an internet access, if they're really deserving and gusto talaga nila mag-train, and we will provide it for them. And then in some communities, dahil contained naman siya, so we do like a small training kung saan 2 players lang or 3 players lang. So they have their basic exercise naman po. So kagandahan ng sports is meron na silang routine na sinusunod. So what they need to do is just follow the routine, record it if they have time, if they have Wi-Fi or access to internet, that send it to us. In return, we'll give them their food packs, so nutrition, like they have their milk or chocolate drinks, biscuits, so something to augment also for their nutrition. So isa yun sa ginawa namin. And second is, we organize some webinars like this for the 3 months. So the episode really is more on the wellness and hope stories on how to cope up in this pandemic. So yun po yung mga activities during the pandemic.
So, na-share mo kanina when we were talking, no, na yung some of the values that you try to inculcate among the youth, right, that you are mentoring are discipline, being organized, right, and being responsible. Now, these are just some of the key qualities of good sportsmanship, right? So how are you able to mobilize now the youth to help out with the programs or activities of Gawad Kalinga?
Okay, the good thing about the program is the youth leaders itself are really empowered. So we have assigned coaches per communities. For example, here in Barangka, so we have 4 coaches that really working into it. So the dissemination of the information is through messenger or text. So if we have some project, for example, okay, somebody wanted to give relief packs for 100 families at this date. So what they do is we just inform them the time, date, contact person, and then sila na po yung bahala. So they organize and then they pack it and then they distribute it. So the same thing also happened to other communities. Yung malalayo, what they need is like, we also open up our soup kitchen during the pandemic. So we make sopas. It makes their tummy warm. And also we have champurrado, lugaw. So yun naman yung basic. But the kids really love champurrado because yung chocolate, tsaka yung milk, at tsaka yung sopas dahil may hot dog. Not everyone can eat that every day. So, yung mga youth po natin, we just send them the money and then sila na po yung magluluto and then they really to send it kung saan nila ibibigay na community, practicing the social distancing and the protocol on, how to handle events, small events like that in their community.
All right, so I am just now sharing actually some of the pictures that you sent me. Let me know if you see it.
Okay, it's just a random picture. So, hindi ko pa siya nakikita, pero maybe in a few seconds. So, yun po, I sent some pictures. I think the activities that we have during the pandemic and before the pandemic. So, while waiting for the screen to appear. So, yung before pandemic is really the youth are active in teaching some kids in the community. Yan, dumating na. Okay, isa po. Oh, this picture here, where the 4 girls and 1 handsome guy is there. That's Kenneth, Jessa. So during the earthquake in Makilala, in the evacuation center, so we gather youth to volunteer there to help in the Kusina ng Kalingat in the feeding program. So after nilang magpakain sa mga tao doon sa evacuation center, they teach them football, yung mga kiddos na nandun sa area. So they just use a ball, put it there, and let the kid discover the beauty of kicking the ball. So that's how it starts. So yan po yung isa namin ginagawa before pandemic. Kung meron pong mga disaster, we use the sports as stress debriefing or psychosocial intervention. Kasi if you let the kids play, kahit sa ang parte ng yung situation, makakalimutan nila yung problema kahit paano. So like ito nga yung joke namin before na during nga po nung sa World War I, in the Christmas time, 'di ba, yung dalawang magkaaway na they halted the war, they freeze for a while and to play football. So football is as like a tool also for peace. So we use football in the conflict areas to encourage kids to play, to enjoy. And also, we have hope stories na yung mga tatay or parents na rebelde, lalapit sa amin and telling us na mas gusto na pala nila na ang hawak ng anak nila is bola than baril. So they also like it the way na their kids are enjoying having the opportunity because all the kids has the right to play naman. So, yan yung isa sa yung ginagawa namin dun sa mga evacuation or conflict areas like in Marawi when the siege happened. in the evacuation center. So we just send balls, and our soldiers, sila po yung nagtuturo during their break time. So I think I sent some pictures na yun po, na despite of the despites, they can still play.
Well, you mentioned something about how the parents of these kids really appreciate the opportunity that is given to them to be part of the program. Pero na-share mo rin kanina na meron ka na-realize dito sa, in your involvement with CPAG, how, some kids are fearful, are scared to take on, the opportunities. And there are certain, for example, scholarship slots that are not filled up dahil minsan takot ang bata. Can you share a little bit more?
Yes. In the program, since we are organized for like 14 years, so many scholarship opportunities coming to us, like International School of Manila, Binil, Lasal. Meron tayong mga slots, and they're asking really if we have kids can try out kung okay. And then some are afraid if we approach them. Lagi nilang sinasabi na, ate, ano doon, rich kids doon, or ate, they're talking English, I cannot speak English. But yung mga ganon. Tapos others really just scared na they think that they don't deserve it and hindi nila kaya. So, lagi namin pinupush, like yesterday, before this call, I called Kuya Jun in Mindanao as well. So, kinumusta ko, because I check other youth natin doon, hindi nag-enroll because of the pandemic. So, dahil modular or dahil blended learning, so yung capacity ng iba, like having a gadget to continue their study, hindi rin nila ma-pursue. So, I told Kuya Jun na, Kuya, that's why we're doing this virtual run. Kasi kung hindi kaya ng iba, and then if they really deserve it, and we'll find ways how to continue their education. Maybe others like really enjoying running with us, but may benefit din to sa ibang mga scholars. So yung fear are slowly namin na inaano sa kanila. Kaya when we organize, one of the medium that we use in the sports is also the English, para masanay din yung mga bata na for us, maging confident sila to talk with us in English. Since the instruction or during naman sa mga event that they able to go outside and play, yung mga kalaro naman nila is yung mga kids that can speak English. Kasi, aminin naman natin, football is really think na it's really for a bit affluence before. But I hopefully that with the new era now, marami na rin mga organizations and clubs that really pushing that football is for everyone, regardless of your status of life, na pwede ka palang maglaro. So yun, the kids we're trying to expose them slowly in environment na kung saan sila pwedeng maging comfortable. At also in the group, maybe we start in the small group that we have. If they've been comfortable and expressing themselves with us, then that can start. They're good in football, they're good in their studies, but if their confidence is very low, they cannot make it and try to grab the opportunities na meron.
That really breaks my heart how, some kids feel that they don't deserve, some of the things that other, advantaged or people who are more of a, mas may advantage ba because they have the resources and everything. Now, even though you're already offering the resources to them, they still feel that they don't deserve, that opportunity. So that really just truly breaks my heart. And I'm glad that your group or the Gawad Kalinga is really doing something to build that confidence, because we all deserve the blessings that come from one God, right? We all have, iisa lang naman ang Diyos natin. At lahat tayo ay deserving ng biyaya niya, di ba? So, I want to also go back to your role as the key accounts manager. But before that, okay, matatapos na ang time natin. Supposedly 30 minutes lang to. So pinapaunahan ko na sa inyo. We will go over time because I think what Bing is sharing with us is really very important. And I really want to flesh it out, as, she has, double duty siya, na dito sa trabaho natin sa Gawad Kalinga. I want to go back to key accounts services. But before I do, I want us to know a little bit more about you, right?
Okay.
Sobra ako nagagalingan sa'yo. Grabe ka, Day. Ang
Salamat.
galing-galing mo. So I really want to, I want our friends, our Gawad Kalinga friends, to know a little bit more about you. So I understand that you finished high school and college in Mindanao, and
Mm-hmm.
then have pursued your master's degree, and received your master's degree from De La Salle University, but also that you were an exchange student in Germany. So marunong ka pa palang mag-German, right? And so, so just walk us through that. How are you, like, paano yung buhay mo sa, sa Mindanao, and just, a little bit more about your background so that people will understand, all these experiences that you so generously and selflessly bring to our work.
Yes. Yes, I grew up in Mindanao. I graduated at Central Mindanao University. But having, that journey is kind of exciting as well. I used to like support my studies by selling vegetables on the street. Kasi my papa is a soldier, pero hindi naman enough yon to, to send 3 kids or 3 children in a school. So, kaya kami, magkakapatid, we able to really look some ways or find some ways on how to sustain our studies. Kasi, if not, hindi kami makapunta sa university. It's far. So, yun, I also a scholar during that time, pero you have expenses pa din. And yeah, after I graduated, I worked, and then na I still have the idea na okay, bakit kaya sometimes there's a discrimination also in the education side. Now, if you come from Mindanao and then you go to the city, they will think that there's like a big difference. So I discovered maybe because of like the language, the barrier, the subculture that we have. So yun. So I make it like not a hindrance for me to go up higher. Like so I took it as an opportunity not to make myself better in this really competitive world, in the corporate world in Manila. So that's why I decided to take up my master's while working. At the same time, I'm also learning my German language that time. So I have the passion also to learn some language. Actually, I studied French, German, pero mas nagagamit ko yung German kasi eventually I was hired in a German company and then given a chance to have my exchange program in Germany for a year. That's like another world bigger than Manila. Now, if you say, oh my God, Manila is so big enough for a provinciana like me. And then when I came to Europe, there is a bigger world out there. And everyone is like, they call it like, there's an opportunity. At doon ko naisip na, okay, if I can make something or I make a difference something to my kababayan or to more youth out there na takot to embrace this kind of challenges or opportunity in their life, then it's sayang. So that's why when I get back after my exchange program, I work in GK. Yun nga po, para I think I want to share a part of me to the youth so that if I can encourage one na to embrace a little opportunity that they have, maybe I can replicate more. So true enough, hindi naman sa pag-ano, true enough that behind me, or maybe later I will show them to you, there is a bunch of youth here working, and when they finish their studies, doing part-time in coaching. Some really are making names in the coaching industries, and some are in the IT, and now are in the
Bakit hindi pa
photography.
natin sila ipasok now?
Ay,
Since you're
kaso,
already introducing them.
ay, pakita daw kayo dito.
Para
Them.
makita ko din sila.
Lapit kayo, lapit. Lapit
Dito ka
sila.
lang, pumunta ka sila sa likod mo.
Yan, lapit kayo guys. So this is Zara.
Hi!
She's education graduate. She's working with us still in GK, but she's handling the girls. But she's the only female referee, right? Yes.
Wow!
So, pwede yan siya magpipa. So, Zara, so we have Bert.
Hi, Sarah.
Bert is
What's his name?
Bert.
Bert.
He's 18 years old, but now doing our shoot, our videos, everything that you see in our Facebook page, it's Bert. Jasniel is, here, it's 17 years old. Jasniel is behind our virtual run Strava. So it's very technical. Hindi ko yun alam, but they can able to do it. And we also have Chester there, may Kolang and Kenneth. So
Okay.
more youth like them. If someone share their little time, I can only share my time because I have no resources. I have no money like our partner there. But really, it's about not only, sometimes it's not about kung anong meron ka, kung anong pwede mo lang ma-share through your heart, from your heart. So if I have the time, then why not? And then if other partners here, there in US, if they have their resources, they have the capacity, and then share it here back. So mas marami tayong matutulungan together. So yun, and then sila, what they have is their time as well. So generous nilang binabalik yung time kung ano man yung tulong na nabibigay natin sa kanila. That's why they're here, because they're going to man the Kusina ng Kalinga live event as well later.
All right. Wow. Nakaka-inspire talaga because, the people you thought you were helping right before, right, when they first started with the program are now also paying it forward. And, and napapalawak pa lalo yung trabaho natin, and there's so many more people that we can help in that way. Okay. So, what are the challenges, right, that you've mentioned already? Some of the challenges that you face with the youth, in the lack of confidence and all of that, right? Sa mga ano natin. So key account services, what are some of the challenges that you face in handling accounts of the US and in Europe? Dealing with the partners.
I think the number one challenges is our interpretation, more on maybe the subculture that we have. For example, here in the Philippines, we love to really work in a relational very closely. We are so sensitive to the emotion of one another kasi takot tayong baka magtampo or baka may iba yung maisip. But in the US, iba naman tayo. We wanted to finish things ahead of time so that we can do more. So yung mga ganon. So sometimes the challenges there is on how to bridge the gap between the two subcultures that we are. As you mentioned, we are all Filipinos mostly, but it really depends on the environment where we grow up. Maybe here in the metro or like in the communities living in the city, they have really different na and how to address things compared to the sa probinsya, different na din yun. And also from our Filipino American in the USA, so iba na din yung pananaw nila. So it's really about a matter of, the one idea, the goal is really one, to help one another, but there's like a gap lang between the communication that we really have to patch it up, everything na maging intertwined pabalik.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned the differences sometimes in culture may get in the way if we don't understand where the other person is coming from. So gusto ko lang din itong i-share. I want to take this opportunity to share also because my situation is a little bit, hindi naman unique, pero siguro rare, right? I came to the US in 1998 in Chicago, right? I was 26. And then lived here until 2011, and then moved to the Philippines and worked for a TV network for 2.5 years, right, over there. And so, nakita ko talaga na magkaiba talaga yung culture. Even though we're all Filipinos, right? We're all Filipino, we have different, culture na, no? Kasi, sa mga nakatira sa Pilipinas, pag sinabi mong ang alam nila, pag sinabi mong Filipino-American, parang alam nila, half Filipino, half American, right? But dito sa atin, sa amin sa US, pag sinabi mong Filipino-American, I would say these are Filipinos who have lived here in the US for a significant amount of time na na-acclimate na kami sa American culture. Right? Yeah. So I did not know how different it was until I moved to the Philippines and lived there for 2.5 years. Ako mismo, nahirapan ako mag-adjust uli sa culture sa Pilipinas because it's really different, right? You're used to, like you said, getting things done, faster here, diba? And we're so used to being so upfront, diba? Na, kasi dito, pag hindi ka naman upfront, you will not get anything done. Ganun talaga, encourage talaga na maging assertive, not aggressive. Two different things, right? To be assertive and to make sure that you express what you feel or what you think, right? In the Philippines, hindi masyado. Parang kailangan, di ba? Kaya sikat na sikat yung mga teleserye na merong humble yung mga, yung mga character, right? So I wanted to say that, I wanted to really highlight that because sometimes that there can be a disconnect if we don't understand the subcultures that you are, that or the cultures you're mentioning, right? So, yeah. So, tama-tama pa naman. Well, Filipino American History Month, it's not really Heritage Month or culture or cultural na promotion. But I think it's also good to understand who the Filipino Americans are, right? And how are we now becoming inevitably, becoming different from, from the culture that we grew up with in the Philippines, right? So yeah, and so okay, I'm glad that we talked about that, and I'm also very um I'm very happy to note and impressed to note that your background kasi is in psychology, diba?
Yes.
You're a psychology major, and it's really so important in what you do, dealing with both the different cultures that you're talking about, right? With
Yes.
with the youth sa Sipag, ibang kultura yan. Now you're
Yes.
dealing with people with partners in the US and in Europe also as a key accounts manager again, ibang kultura yan. So I really think that, Gawad Kalinga is so blessed to have you and all the beneficiaries of the programs of Gawad Kalinga is so blessed to have you because of your background and again your selfless contribution because you can really choose to have a job from any multinational company, especially with your international background, right? Or anything na sa corporate world where you might be, making more money, right? Hindi ko naman inaapi ang ang pasweldo ng Gawad Kalinga, pero I'm pretty confident to say that people don't work for GK for the money, 'di ba? Siguro naman hindi naman ako kakastiguhin ni Luis Jan o ni Dan Babercasio, right? So, but people don't come to Gawad Kalinga for the money, but it really is to reach out to people who are disadvantaged or who do not have as much resources as we do, right? Okay. So in the next couple of minutes, I just want to invite you to share your message or anything that you want to promote. I understand you have a couple of events. Maybe start with that, and then what is your message to the partners that you work with, and also how can we help advance the program of CPAD?
Thank you, everyone, for having me here, for sharing our story, our program, our journey in Gawad Kalinga. But ano din po, blessed din po ako at blessed yung programa dahil we have you guys there. So yun yung lagi kong sinasabi kina Tita Mer at Tita Sel na it's my honor to work with you guys there. Kasi kayo yung legwork then why the programs are working here because nandyan din po kayo. Kung wala kayo, our programs might be still here, might be working, but we cannot expand that much and we cannot reach that much because of you fuel our advocacy. So we are grateful for that. And how you can help us. There are many ways to help, not only monetary but your presence. Number one. Number two could be you can help us spread the news that here in the Philippines, we also have this kind of advocacy in the sports and in the wellness. Maybe other people there are enthusiastic to marry education and sports. Maybe they can approach us. And lastly, if you have extra or other things like I know that Tito Bucci from Chicago has been sending a lot of bunch from us. The youth soccer shoes maybe for others is not that important, but for the kids here, they love it. The jerseys, the one that we wear, they give it to the kids. So, yung mga ganong bagay po. So, there are many ways to help and many ways to collaborate. Yun lang po. We always have a grateful heart to that. Kung ano man po yung mga partnership that we have. And then, lastly, I would like to invite you guys for a virtual run. We're doing it virtually since the pandemic won't allow us to run together or to have a sports together, to play football or futsal. So we created this with with the youth volunteers, sila po yung nagko-code doon sa registration, sila yung nagmo-monitor sa miles, kilometers in the Strava, sila din po yung nag-create ng mga poster things. So, ang ginagawa ko lang talaga is just to check them kung ano yung mga kulang. So, yun po, if you love to do sports, if you love to exercise, join us in our virtual run. You can still register up to November 15 and you can finish the run on the November 30. At yung proceed po doon is to provide additional tablets and routers to our learners and scholars in the Philippines.
Bing, if you can send me the information to like the link to register, I will I will post this as soon as we're done with the with the ating kwentuhan. It will be posted immediately on Facebook, but I can update it to include the link. All right, to how to register. Ang hanggang November 15 pa po, and can we participate even though we're from here, from the US? Because it's virtual, right?
Yes, you can participate. Yun lang yung problem is how to send your singlet or your medal once you finish it. Baka isang bulk na lang namin send.
Oh, that's okay. We just want to raise, I'm pretty sure those who will participate would just want to help out as well, right? Especially kung runners naman na sila, right? Then it will just be more meaningful for them.
Yes. It's a new community. It's a diverse community. You will be running with a pro, with a youth, and with all masaya siya kasi merong chat group din.
All right. Well, thank you for everything that you do. And you mentioned 3 people. I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows who they are. They should know who they are because most of the people who are watching our Kwentong GK are already advocates of Gawad Kalinga. They are the people who, follow our Gawad Kalinga USA or GK USA Facebook page. But yung si Tita Cel is actually Maricel Villanueva, who is GK USA's executive director, and Mayor Amante also that you also mentioned her. Those are the 2 people who are involved with working with you on behalf of the partners, right? Of here in the US. And then also you mentioned Kuya Bucci. Bucci Impelido po is actually a very, staunch advocate of Gawad Kalinga and, soccer and sports, right? And I know also, like you mentioned, he has been supporting CPAG for many years now. And, he's been also supporting our work here locally in the Midwest of the US, for a long time as well. So with that said, thank you very much for joining us this evening again, Bing. And thanks everyone for joining us tonight in this episode. This is episode 7 already with Bing Importante. You are so important. We hope to have you for many, many more years. Sabagay, bata ka pa naman. But, very, very thankful for that. So, friends, excuse me, hold on, bosses. Friends, please continue to watch us to join us every Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, here at Kwentong GK. This has been another episode with, again, Miss Bing Importante. And see you next week. Goodbye. Good night.